Hello, everybody. This is Gregsynthbootlegs, and today's date is November 24th, 2025. And on this date, I would like to talk about Freddie Mercury. And since this channel is dedicated to Queen and the live performances, I think discussing Freddie Mercury would be an appropriate action for this channel. And even though it's the 34th anniversary of his passing, I don't want to talk about his passing and his struggle with HIV/AIDS and any of the sad stuff that happened in the last few years of his life. I want to pay tribute to the man, and I want to talk about why he is my favorite singer of all time and why I love his voice, the way he sings, and just I want this video to be a tribute to him, and I just want to talk about positive things, and I'll share some brief stories of how I first got introduced to Freddie Mercury's voice, and down the road I do plan on making a video about me becoming interested in Queen's music and first hearing a number of songs, and I'll go into great detail on that video. But for this video, I'm gonna sort of like trim the fat off bits of that story, put some of those points onto this video, and then just talk about Freddie and his voice and his singing abilities. So to begin about Freddie Mercury, not counting the odd song or two I've heard in my childhood, in my elementary and middle school days, namely like We Will Rock You, and maybe I heard Bohemian Rhapsody, but I can't quite zone in on the year I first heard those, but I want to say it was late grade school, early middle school, so maybe 20 odd years ago. It was more than 20 odd years ago, probably 23, 24 years ago. In that time frame is when I first started to hear Queen songs. But my first true memory of Freddie Mercury's voice, where I heard Queen's music and was just really sucked into listening to him sing, would have taken place in my high school years. It would have been in the school year of 2005, 2006. So that would have been my sophomore year and then going into my junior year of high school. And I can recall in the history of rock and roll class I had, my teacher was Mr. Malley, and he taught some elective courses, and he also taught history, and he taught some debate stuff, and he taught a variety of classes. But one that stuck out was history of rock and roll. And of course, me loving music, I figured I'll sign up for this elective. And I really wasn't looking at it as, well, I want to get an easy mark. I want to, score well in the class. Music is something I've always loved, even going back to when I was a toddler. There's home videos of me banging on a Casio keyboard and leaping all over it and stuff. But I've always loved music, even at a very young age. And I figured that this class, I can learn so much stuff. I can learn about different bands, different eras, different genres. And I was really interested in the class. And I obviously ended up loving it. But I'm going to talk about Freddie Mercury and how this relates to that class. So during that class, we were going through the 70s genres. We were going through various bands from the 1970s. We were going through genres of rock that were very popular in the 1970s, namely stuff like glam rock, there was hard rock, progressive rock. And during all this, Mr. Malley was showing various bands and songs on this big sound system, and heard a variety of songs from different artists. Led Zeppelin was one of them. Sabbath was another, and then and Queen was one of the artists. And up until Queen, and listening to the few songs that were played in the sound system, the way I would perceive music and and albums and studio stuff would be I took everything as a whole. Like, I didn't really focus on a specific element of the music. I didn't like think I'm just gonna listen to the drums. I'm just gonna focus on the guitar. I'm just gonna hear that bass line. I'm just gonna hear the singing. I treated all the songs as a whole and just thought, it's a good song. I like this song. This one's okay. But I took the songs as the full package and didn't really dissect them. But when I first heard Queen songs during this class, something was very different. Where I liked the music, and Mr. Malley played a variety of Queen songs in there. "Keep Yourself Alive" was one of the songs. "Bohemian Rhapsody" was another. And then another one, "Bites the Dust" was another song. And then "Liar." So right off the bat, 4 different songs. And while I liked the music and I thought, this band seems pretty cool, a variety of genres, I kept thinking about the singer. Like, I'm thinking, man, this guy singing's got a great voice. He can manipulate his voice. He can sing high. He can sing low. He's got a great tone. He's got a amazing falsetto. He's got a great soft tone. This guy sounds great. Like he was the first singer that I can honestly say where he stuck out so much from the music in a very good way. Where I'm like, I gotta research this guy. And I fell in love with his voice pretty much right away. And of course, back in the day, in school, if you didn't know something, where do you go? You go to the computer lab or the library with the computers in there, or you go to the computer in the music room. And that's what I ended up doing. And I went to Dr. Google and Professor Wikipedia. And I typed in, Queen, and I typed in Freddie Mercury, and I ended up getting all sorts of information about the band. And started looking up, Freddie Mercury, and there were articles about him, about his great range and like all this acclaim and how he's such an amazing singer. And I just kept reading articles about this amazing singer, and I'm like, well, I like the music. And I love the singer, and I really want to hear Queen music properly. Not just hearing bits and pieces here and there, not just a song, not a single. I wanted a Queen album. And I still hold true to this day the mindset of starting with compilations. If I wanted to get into a group or I wanted to learn about a singer, I start with compilations, or if I wanted to start with an official studio record, I would start with probably their most popular one just to dip my toes into the material. But with Queen, I didn't want to just start with a random album. I wanted to dive into like a greatest hits or any sort of a compilation they had, because I heard a variety of material in that class, and there were so many different genres and styles that I'm like, I want to hear a lot of their songs. So later that year, I ended up getting Queen the Platinum Collection for Christmas, and 3-disc set, and I have it back on a shelf. You can't really see it here because it's blocked by the wall, but there's that crazy tour poster back there. So yeah, promoting the band still, and that tour is awesome. But yeah, I started with the Queen Platinum Collection compilation, and man, I heard so much great music off that. I heard the classic hit singles. I heard Bohemian Rhapsody and Killer Queen, and what I loved about it was from all eras of their career. Their early records, their classic era, their mid era with late 70s, early 80s, their later 80s era, the final albums with Freddie Mercury when he was still alive, like with Innuendo and Made in Heaven tracks that were on the third disc. So that was my dip into Queen. And I'm going to save, the big parts of that story for another video in the future. But I just want to talk about Freddie specifically, and why he's my favorite singer of all time. Um, well, well, the first obvious part is, he's got a great range to his voice. He doesn't have the widest range ever in the history of music, but he's got a very effective range where he uses it very well, and you get to just hear him sing high. You can hear him sing low. Very powerful through his range, especially as his voice matured. Great power and resonance to his voice, and 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 when you hear certain singers, there's a lot of great singers out there, but then there are these special singers to where when you hear them sing, they have it. They have the it factor where when you hear them sing, they're like, this singer is awesome at what they do. That they have this charisma that comes through, in their phrasing, in their lyrics, if they write the lyrics to their material. So when I hear Freddie sing, I'm sucked into the music, and the music itself is fantastic. But hearing Freddie Mercury's voice on top of this great music, it's like, what a combination of musicians that got together to form this band Queen. And to have a singer like Freddie Mercury, in your band is, don't screw that opportunity up, because Freddie is among the absolute greatest singers ever. Love his voice. I love how he uses his voice, and what makes him such a great singer is not only does he have charisma and emotion and passion when he sings, but he's got this way of phrasing things that sucks you into the material. Like, you want to listen to him sing. He's really good at what he does, but he draws you in with his tones. Like, he can sing soft. He can be angelic if he wants to. He can be hard and gutsy, and he can turn up the volume. He can do all sorts of things with his voice. He can manipulate his voice, and he's such a versatile singer too. Like, he can sing a variety of genres and make him sound like he fits in with that genre. Like, he can sing hard rock, he can sing softer rock, ballads, he can sing poppier stuff. He can do more synth pop, synth rock material that you heard on like Love Kills, and maybe some tracks off of The Works. He can do dance related stuff. It's like his voice and the way he uses it and the way he delivers lyrics, he makes it work on songs. And no matter what the song is, I'm always drawn to his voice. Like he could sing on, hypothetically, you can take maybe the worst song ever, or someone can make the worst song ever and put Freddie Mercury singing on it, and I'll still listen to it because that's how good he is. Like, he can make songs that are terrible at least sound listenable, or at least you want to pay attention to the vocals. So, I absolutely love Freddie Mercury as a vocalist, and yeah, amazing showmanship on stage. He was an amazing frontman, great musician, great songwriter, very charismatic. And I'll praise him all day on all that stuff, but I want to focus on his singing abilities and just how talented he was as a singer. And he's just plain awesome, and I appreciate what he brings to songs, and I always look forward to hearing him sing on anything he puts his voice to. And in the fact that he can do a pop opera classical crossover album with Montserrat Caballé, and sound really good on that material with a professional opera singer is incredible. And he combined worlds of pop music and opera, and I thought he did a great job with that concept. And Barcelona's a fantastic record, no matter if it's the original one with the synthetic orchestra or the re-release that happened a number of years ago with the real orchestra. I know some people prefer one or the other, and I just love listening to the record either way, because a lot of it is Freddie and the way he sings, and no matter what Queen album I listen to, and no matter if I like the songs or not, that voice that voice is there, and I'm drawn into these songs because Freddie Mercury's on them, and I appreciate him as a seriously talented vocalist, and he was the first singer that really drew my attention away from sort of looking at music and performances as a whole and really just zeroing in on a specific member of a band. And I would have to say Freddie Mercury did that. And, to this day, he was my favorite singer, almost 20 years ago when I started getting into Queen and collecting their studio work and the compilations. And now we move ahead to 2025, and he's still my favorite singer. And he'll likely always will be my favorite singer. I could be in a nursing home, in my 80s or 90s, and may have dementia or something wrong with me, and I'll still remember Freddie Mercury and his amazing voice, and I'll still say he's my favorite singer. So, yeah, that's just that's the way I think about Freddie, and I appreciate everything he did for Queen, and I appreciate his talent, his abilities, and it's a shame that he passed fairly young and in the way he did. But his legacy will always live on, and his legacy has actually grown in the decades after his passing. So I appreciate Freddie Mercury in general, and what a man, what a talent, and what an entertainer, and Freddie Mercury's my all-time favorite singer, and there's nothing really much more for me to say on that. So I like to pay tribute to Freddie Mercury and say that no matter what Queen song I listen to, no matter what song that has Freddie on vocals, he'll always suck me into a song just because he's so good at singing and he's so good at what he does, and I just appreciate him. So that'll be it for this video, and I'll see you guys in the very near future with more concert uploads and occasional videos of me showing up on camera. Have a good day.